What is up, Flockers? That is my fellow Lockers and aspiring Lockers. In today's video, we're going to be talking about some of the reasons why Braidlocs may be the right fit for you. So if you want to hear those, then go ahead and stick around. One of the first things that comes to my mind when I think of Braidlocs, which is what I have in my head, is the fact that with Braidlocs, out of other types of starter methods, you have less unraveling. Now, I won't say that that works for every single hair type. I have 4C through 4Z hair, so there's absolutely no unraveling happening with me. But just as a general kind of rule, braids are going to hold better than two-strand twist. Braids are going to hold better than comb coils, and possibly even better than you would have if you had interlocking, just because of the slippage and things that can happen depending on the softness of your hair, the texture of your hair, and things of that nature. So one of the hugest pros one of the biggest pros of having Braidlocs is the fact that you're going to have less unraveling. For me, I have had absolutely no unraveling. I have not had to rebraid any of my Braidlocs. I have not had to go back in and touch anything up. Haven't had any slippage or anything like that in over a year of being Braidlocked. And so, again, one of the first pros that came to my mind is the fact that you have little to no unraveling with Braidlocs. Another pro that might convince you of why Braidlocs could possibly be the right move for you in starting your locks is that with braids, it's typically easier to make your section smaller. Or not even your section smaller, but you're able to braid smaller sections of hair and get a smaller lock than you can possibly with other starter methods. Now with interlocking, yes, you can also get pretty much as small as you want, but when you're two-strand twisting, it's going to create a larger lock. With coil, it's going to create a larger lock, and I mean when it starts to swell and things like that. The good thing about the braid is that it pretty much stays condensed, so whatever size you start them, they will swell a little bit, but they're not going to double and triple in size the way that comb coils or two-strand twists might, or even interlocks might, if that's the way that you start your locks. So if you're the type of person like me that doesn't want your locks to necessarily expand and become 2, 3, 4 times the size that they are when you start them, and you want them to stay on the smaller side as they mature, then Braidlocs might just be for you. Another pro that is definitely one for Braidlocs, but just Microlocs in general, and locks in general, is that it keeps your hair stretched in a sense that, like when you had loose natural hair, you know, you might put a style in, but your hair is going to shrink up when it gets wet or whatnot. And if you have comb coils, if you have two-strand twist, your hair still has this elasticity to it where it stretch, or where it can shrink up. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you won't have any shrinkage with Braidlocs. There is still shrinkage. I mean, if I were to pull, like, there's shrinkage. You can see it. It's there. Okay? So I'm not telling you that there's not shrinkage with Braidlocs. What I'm saying is that there's minimal shrinkage compared to other forms of starter methods. With Braidlocs, your hair stays in a more stretched state from day one. Even when you start washing, if you go swimming, if you're out in the rain or anything like that, your hair just stays stretched more so than with other starter methods. But for the most part, any starter method with locks is going to leave your hair in a more stretched state than if you had your loose natural hair out and exposed. The next pro on my list for why Braidlocs may be for you is that Braidlocs, the pattern does disappear. There's this myth out there that if you start your hair with Braidlocs, you're going to have the braid pattern for 5 years, 10 years, forever. And that's not the case. Now, with some people it might be, but what I found is that those that braid super tight end up having the pattern for a very long time. But if you're able to braid, or whoever starts your locks, to start them loosely, then the braid pattern is going to disappear with time. The ones around the front I braided tighter because they were around the perimeter, so you can probably still see the braid pattern and a lot of the ones around the front. But there's some on the sides and in the back, and I can't really see in the viewfinder, but hopefully I've zoomed in so that y'all can actually see. But there's a lot throughout my head where you can't tell where the braid begins and where the interlock pattern ends, where the braid ends, or anything like that, because there's no line of demarcation. And so that's just proof to show you that Braidlocs do mature. They do just like every other type of lock. They may be the slowest maturing lock out of the starter methods, but you will lose the braid pattern. And like I said, if you braid loosely, your braid pattern will go away quicker. If I had done the ones around the perimeter looser, then the braid pattern that's still visible now wouldn't be as visible. But for aesthetic reasons, it was important to me to braid the ones around the perimeter of my head tighter than the rest of my head. Do I regret it? No. But am I here to tell you that if you braid the ones around the perimeter of your head looser, will the braid pattern disappear quicker? Probably will. Alright, and another reason why Braidlocs may be for you is the simplicity of just being able to braid. I won't say everybody, I won't say most people, but a lot of people know how to braid. They know how to plait hair, okay? We're not talking about cornrowing here, we're talking about just flat out regular plaits. Whereas other starter methods like comb coil, although for some people it may be simple, but comb coil is not the simplest starter method to do on your own. You can braid on your own. Two-strand twist you can also do pretty simply on your own. Braids and two-strand twist I would say are the easiest starter methods to do on your own. Now when you get into interlocking, I interlock my own hair. I've been interlocking my own hair since day one. For me, I watched enough videos and I feel like I have learned it to where I can do it pretty simply, don't have any issues with it, never had any issues with it. So I feel comfortable with it. Now, if I had tried to interlock my hair from root to tip, well, would I have been able to do it? Absolutely. I would have been down for the challenge and I would have crushed it like I try to crush anything that I achieve and set out to do. It is a lot more difficult to interlock when you're doing it from root to tip. When I go in to do my interlocking sessions now, I've already got a huge base and foundation that's not going to unravel, so I don't have to really worry about it. But when you were starting out from the very beginning and you're, let's say all of this is loose hair for this lock and you're twisting up the end of it so that you have the end, and then you're having to go through and do your rotations, and it just takes a really long time to go through and do it from root to tip. So if you want to do it from root to tip and have the interlock look, of course, go for that. But I'm just saying, Braidlocs, it's very simple to do on your own. You leave your salon or you leave your house with the cool looking hairdo on day one. It's stretched, it's easy to do on your own, and you have less unraveling. How can those not be the best pros for you to think of when considering if Braidlocs are for you? If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button so that I know what type of content you are enjoying, and also hit the subscribe button so that you can join the flock. And before you go anywhere, check out some of the other videos that have showed up on the screen. I'll see you there.